Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I am super excited right now. I just was motivated. There's a woman by the name of Jadina, Jhadina, or something like that. Maybe it's a little longer. She's on YouTube. She's amazing. Um, she inspired me to come on here and talk more about my story because ultimately we're here to help. We're here to help each other. And sometimes when you tell your own story of what you go through, it could help someone else to not feel alone. I felt alone for many years growing up in my home. I grew up in a big home, but I felt very alone, alone in my mind. I felt I was a different type of kid who had a lot of questions about the world and a lot of questions about like the universe, and I didn't know if anybody can answer them. And maybe I tried asking, I don't even remember, but I just felt very, very alone in my circumstances. My parents got divorced. I mentioned in another video, my parents got divorced when I was in, they got separated. I was in ninth grade. And I thought my parents had like the perfect life because we were wealthy and things were good. And like my friends would always be like, "You're the home to go to. You have the best home. We're jealous. We want to be in your home." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I guess from everyone else's perspective, like it looked like such an awesome home. Like I don't know. I was kind of like lost. I was lost in the freaking world. I was in this big house, but like all lost in my own world. And so I developed like I made a million friends, I guess, to like swallow up my loneliness. But no matter how many friends I had, I kind of felt like I was lost in my own world. I don't know if anyone here like felt like that, but I definitely felt like that. Like it's a confusing world in a sense, and so I pursued God for a while, like in my life. Like I did pursue God in my earlier years until I thought like this is like I looked at like my family who had like Judaism, and there was like this fake kind of Judaism. Okay, it was a fake Judaism. It was make believe. Like you couldn't do things. Like if people saw you do things, then that was the problem. And I was always confused by that. And then my mom went out and did her thing and found her way, and kind of that was helpful because she kind of left that world, and it helped me realize, okay, I don't have to stay in that world. But then she got blasted by my other side of the family, and like we were told like we couldn't really talk to her for a long time, and we had all these rules, and like they were talking a lot of shit about her, to be honest with you. um, and it made it just much more confusing because there was money on one side of my dad's side of the family, and it wasn't money on the other side of my mom's side. So like if you chose like my mom, like you were fearful of like this money and this aspect of your life. And even if you weren't getting anything, you felt like there was this element of like that's the power and control. Is like people with wealth have the power and control, and people that don't are the have-nots, the haves and the have-nots. um, this is difficult for me to talk about on here. Not many of my family members actually know I'm back on YouTube, but it doesn't matter at this point. Like I have to speak my truth. Um, I have to help others understand that like we're not in this alone, and there are many people that are going through probably similar things that I went through. So I'm going to speak it out, and I'm not going to rush this video. This might take a little bit of time to go through, and I might be a little bit all over the place, but it's okay. So I was kind of confused younger years, and my parents getting divorced. That was a big step for me in ninth grade. Like I went into party mode. I went into like drinking every weekend. Maybe it wasn't every weekend. I don't know if I was an alcoholic at the time, but there was addictions running in my family. So like it would make sense that like maybe I was already addicted at that point. I was chasing girls. I wasn't actually having sex in high school because in Judaism, like in the Jewish world of private school, like it wasn't a thing. I'm sure some kids were. I know some kids were actually, but I wasn't. I was fooling around with a lot of people and doing all that stuff, but I was chasing, was going from girlfriend to girlfriend to girlfriend, and it was really because I felt alone. So like if I had someone there or talking to someone on the phone, like I don't know if you guys had that like 3 hour long marathon phone calls. That was before we now we have FaceTime and Instagram and all this stuff. But before then, there was no such thing. It was like actually AOL Instant Messenger for those that remember. But those phone calls, those marathon phone calls, which I'm sure people have. My son I think has those sometimes. Those very long phone calls, but I would always have those friends to call whenever. I never really tried to solve the problems myself. When I was younger, I did go to therapy. My parents put me in therapy, and the therapist said he doesn't need therapy. And then I went to therapy a few times later on in my life. Again, I was told I don't need therapy. I'm actually grateful to tell everybody, yeah, currently I do go to therapy. I enjoy it, but at the same time, It's just a nice place. It's a nice thing for people to do, by the way, to allow you to have a place where you shouldn't feel judged. If you have a therapist that's kind of judging you or telling you what to do, it's not really ideal. I mean, I guess everyone teaches his own, but I found someone who just listens, who doesn't judge, and actually sees me for who I am, just a loving, kind person who just wants a place to reflect and to say over whatever I need to say over. But in any event, so in those years in high school, I was a sports guy. I had a lot of outlets. I kept myself very, very busy. But the truth is, when you're so freaking busy, you don't have time to like listen to your own inner self. And anytime you did, you were like scared to like go in there because you were told that like you shouldn't trust that part of you. Like listen to everyone else's advice, like listen to religion, listen to your parents, listen to your friends, listen to a therapist, listen to a teacher or a coach, but what about yourself? Like I didn't know that. So my entire high school, I was floating around getting, looking towards everyone else to figure out myself. And then in private school in the Jewish world where I lived, after you leave high school, you go to Israel, to yeshiva to learn Judaic studies, to learn about God and Judaism through Judaism for however long you're there for. It's about 8 months, 9 months. Some people stay longer. I stayed for a year and a half. Um, and as a divorced child, who's confused where you are, and you're in this stage of 18 years old, and you're have no direction of life, then you're very primed to be changed in a very extreme way. And I went to this place, and I completely changed into a Hasidic Jewish guy. All of a sudden started listening to these tapes. They had a tape library, and I was going on and on about these tapes. And I had this law that, well, not right away, but I started to grow a beard out, and I started to change my dress, and I started to put on the white shirt and the black pants. If you ever see those guys walking around, they look like they're wearing like it's like an army outfit, but for Orthodox Jews. And I was starting to wear the whole garb and grow out my side curls around my ears, and eventually I became a rabbi, and I started to pursue this way of religion, because it was a path that I can look towards every other person to figure out like that those kinds of people to tell me how to live my life, and that would help me. It was really about making sure I was good, to find like a community and a tribe, and at that time it worked for me. I ended up getting married like that, but again, I still never trusted really what I was feeling. Now, I was also a person that like once I went into something, like I was full head on, like this was my thing. So if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. I'm not gonna do it half baked. I'm gonna do it fully. And fully meant like I did the outside, but I was trying to do the inside. But there was always this difficult thing I was struggling with that I was never really aligned. Like something wasn't sitting right with me. Like there were rules, so many rules. Like you couldn't look at the women, you couldn't watch certain things on TV. You couldn't watch TV at all in my world. So I gave that up for a while. You couldn't you couldn't really use drugs, but you can drink. Drinking was fine for some reason. And drinking there's a ton of drinking going on in that world, but drugs is not okay. Like smoking weed wasn't a thing back then, so I didn't smoke weed, but I drank. And then whatever you're doing, like I had to hide things I was doing. Like if you're watching TV, sometimes I'd sneak in little things that were a little bit, not okay. Um, and I wouldn't tell anybody about those things. And I was always like I would not, while I was in yeshiva, I was smoking hookah, and I was doing that. But hookah's okay because it's not mind altering, so that's fine. And a lot of people smoke cigarettes and all that. So I was smoking cigarettes, I was smoking hookah, and I was doing that regularly. And I wasn't even telling people how much hookah I was smoking. I was smoking probably two, three hookahs a day. And they're all like between 30 minutes to an hour sessions. Maybe I was smoking more even as time went on. Even in my marriage, like I was sneaking out. I was in yeshiva my first year of marriage. I was learning. But my first year I was still like going back to my dad's house. It was close enough to like in my lunch breaks, and I was going to smoke hookah, and I was sneaking out. And it was because I needed my space. I needed to figure out myself, and I was doing that alone. But I still didn't trust myself. I still needed guidance from every other person. I never could sit alone. I never could be with my own mind. I couldn't clear out my mind. It was racing all the time, ADD, always trying to fill, whether again, activities, learning, sports, my wife, and then eventually was popping out. We were popping out kids pretty quickly. We had three kids. So, you're busy with raising children. and busy with, then I had one job, two jobs, eventually I had four jobs. So I'm working four jobs. I'm in yeshiva. I'm doing all these things and just trying to make a living, just trying to make ends meet. We're living in this small little apartment. And then we eventually bought a house. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses. So we bought this little house, but like between the two of us, we're like making a good living, but like house poor because you have this house and you have to pay all these bills and you're just trying to keep up, keep up, keep up. And then with doing all this stuff, being a human doing, you have no time to like catch yourself and breathe. Speaking of, so it's a lot. Like you're just going through a lot in that time period, and I'm still trying to find myself during that time. And again, I have the long beard. I'm a rabbi. I'm working in a school. I'm working in an outpatient substance abuse clinic for Northwell for a bunch of years, and I'm also working in this foster care agency. And my best place of my life that I was when I was working. When I was in work mode, when I was in these places, I was on. Like I was playing a role, a social worker. I was a social worker, and that was a role, and a rabbi, and I was playing a certain role, and I knew how to align with the role. Um, and that's what I did with my life. I felt like I was playing roles, like putting on a mask everywhere I was going. I wasn't really myself in any of these places. Even as a husband, I guess I was now I have to be a husband, now I have to be a dad, and a role instead of just like I am. Like I am should be enough, but I didn't know what I am meant back then. All I know, I am a dad. I am a husband, I am a teacher, I am a rabbi, I am a social worker. I understood that. I didn't know what just full sentences I am. I used to wear a bracelet that said I am, and people would say, "What are you wearing that for?" And I would say, "I am" is a full sentence. For those who understand, you understand. And I didn't understand that at that time. At that time I was running around, running, doing, just chasing my tail. Now there was this piece inside of me, this like piece behind, always telling me that like there's got to be more to this situation than just doing that, like keeping yourself busy all the time. Like, so I was like, okay, I'm keeping busy, but it wasn't good enough. Eventually, my marriage fell apart because we were just like two ships sailing in the night. Like she was working, I was working. It was nonstop work, 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 and we didn't really have a relationship. And whatever happened, happened. I go into the details right now, but it is important to understand that we both were not on the same page, and she went off to do her thing, and she went into a different world in a sense. She went to work, and in her workplace she went off and found herself, and I kind of distanced myself from that as well. And then eventually we moved on from our lives, and it wasn't meant to be for years. The last After my daughter was born, after the first three children, it was all good, and then after that she wanted to get a dog and I was like, no. um and no more, we're like, no more children at this point. It's like not happening. We need to move forward with our lives. It just took a bunch of years to get divorced because it's scary, especially in the Jewish world, to get divorced. It's any world, I guess. It's right. It's scary to get divorced and to make that. And then again, you feel alone again. Like again, I was trying to tell you, like I'm a person who I wanted to stay married because like it's so to have a partner was like at least even if it's terrible, like there's someone there. And to lose my children for a period of time, even if it's for a few days a week or 1 week or it was longer at the beginning, it was like 10 days at a time where I wouldn't see my kids, and then only for like 4 days. It's a lot. Like to go from like always having your house full to being alone. Like I went, let me backtrack a little bit. When I left my house to go to yeshiva in Israel, so I was never alone because I dormed with people there. So I never got to live alone. And then I came back and I dormed in a yeshiva here in New York. And then I got married. So I never lived alone. Again, I guess maybe a lot of people don't end up living fully alone before they, get into a relationship, but I'm just pointing that out. Like I was never alone. So all of a sudden now it's like I'm divorced, I'm alone. I'm like, holy crap, I don't know who I am. So instead of trying to figure out who I was like, all right, what's the next best thing to do? Fill myself up with work, fine. And then fill myself up with desires, fulfilling my fantasies, fulfilling my desires. So I went in party mode again. Like I became like a high school kid, where I was just like, okay, but I was responsible. So like I was taking care of my children, taking care of my bills, paying all my finances. I never missed a bill in my life. I actually missed one bill in my entire life. I called it a side note. I called American Express one time, like, yo, sorry I missed this. This is like the first time in my life. They're like, oh yeah, it is your first time ever. So I was always responsible, always took care of those things. And because of that, I was able to say to myself, okay, I'm going to be responsible, but I'm going to party and I'm going to go down that road and fulfill all my fantasies, whether it's women, substances, and just have a good time because eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, right? Like tomorrow you're dead. So like that's what I was thinking. Like once you're dead, you're dead. There's nothing else. And I slowly left Judaism during the divorce. It was a couple years prior to my divorce. I was already like, we both of us, both me and my ex-wife, were like kind of like veering off of the Judaism, and not for no reason other than like it just didn't work with our lifestyle with our kids, and like we started changing their schools and all kinds of stuff. But as the divorce happened, once the divorce happened, I was like, well, I want to have fun. So that the Judaism thing just doesn't work with having fun. And then I went into this mode of like, well, there's no God, there's no nothing, and like, boom. And then you're in this crazy place where you're like, you're so full with people and so full of fun and dating apps and all these kinds of fun activities and bars. And I moved to like an area where there are literally bars all over, and like, you don't have to be alone for a freaking second. You can be out all through the night till the next day when you're working again around people, and again repeating the cycle. And then I was with my kids half the time, and then my neighbors and all this kind of stuff, and you're constantly never alone. But you're always me. I was always alone here. I was always alone, like doing all those things and fulfilling the fantasies. And then after it was over, I was like, that place. You guys know what I'm talking about. The ones who know, you're here listening to this, that place. But you're not alone. If you come here, you're not alone. I'm with you. I'm with you on this journey. And then there came a time where I finally, it hit me where, I took mushroom psilocybin with two of my closest friends at the time, and all of a sudden it was like a different world, like nature and God. Slowly, Ram Dass was a big one for me. For those of you who know Ram Dass, who have heard of Ram Dass, like Be Here Now, the book Be Here Now is amazing. It changed my life. I read all of his books. I watched all of his videos over and over. And I was in a period of time where, like, for 2 years, nonstop Ram Dass books, Ram Dass videos. I still listen to Sit Around the Fire by John Hopkins, where Ram Dass is talking. It's John Hopkins music in the background. It's amazing. I meditate to that, but I don't, now I just, whenever it comes on, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm just saying, like, for people who don't know of this is like amazing stuff. Like John Hopkins, Ram Dass, I would advise you to go listen to it. Um, Ram Dass is amazing. Doesn't work for everybody. Some people find, other ways, but for me, it was him. And he kept on saying, "You're not alone. You're not alone." And big thing for me was tapping into nature, seeing nature, feeling nature, breathing into nature. Every time I feel alone, I go outside. I look at the birds. The birds are yapping away. I feel the wind, feel the ground beneath my skin. And I just know that God is with me. It's this feeling that all of a sudden you feel God within, inside yourself, this God inside of you. It took me so long, um, during this period of finding myself. It was not easy because all of a sudden when you start changing your ways, I left Judaism. I completely left Judaism. Okay. And this is my truth. Jesus came into my life, not Jesus, Christianity, Catholicism, Jesus, the being Jesus. And for me to say this on here is big, and for people to understand, Jesus is an amazing being, but it doesn't mean you have to follow Catholicism or religion. He was trying to teach you that you can be a person like Jesus. I'm not Jesus. My name is Yoni. I will be the best version of myself like him. I was a ball of love my entire life, being told, don't love everybody. Well, I do love everybody. That doesn't mean I don't have discernment. Like, I have to have boundaries. I've told people I can't talk to them anymore because I'm living a different lifestyle. I'm living with a place where, like, I want to be in a place of, like, seeing the world with goodness and abundance and joy, and that it's not what you see, it's what you feel. And it all is in the breath. And there are people, I'm listening to videos now, like I mentioned that woman in the beginning, and many videos that come to me, that those are the people that I want to associate with. Those are the people that fully understand. I know you're there. Like, if you're listening to this video, you're one of those people, right? And they're scattered throughout. And we're like, shoot, I do feel that way. I feel like I'm so different. Like, I think about God all the time. And I think about, like, this isn't it. Like, I know I'm here forever, not Yoni, this physical body, but I know my consciousness has been here many times. Just like the Buddha said that, he remembers 9,000 incarnations. Like, and there's more than that. Like, whatever it is, where it's never ending. So you have to get good with the consciousness behind it. You have to get good with this in this incarnation. Like I'm good with this guy, but then be good with the conscious that you're always here. You've never not been here. So stop chasing, stop running. And I didn't know how to stop. And even in my spiritual journey, I created a YouTube page, like I mentioned, and I was sharing my poetry, which I'm doing on my shorts now, sometimes in some of my videos, which I'm going to share some of my later poetry that I didn't share earlier on that page, but I'd probably go back and still some of that poetry I would still share. But I put out my life on here, and it was really tough because it was opening up and sharing, and some of it, like I'll have to share again some of it for people to really, because I know it'll help people to break free, to tell your truth, to not be scared of whatever happens. And it's an isolating journey that people will say, oh, I left them, but the truth is, it's not, it's mutual, right? Like people leave you, but you move on because you're just like, your focus is different. You're not going to the bars as much. I mean, then you stop going, or you go for different reasons. You go when there's like a band that you like is playing, or there's karaoke I like to go to, or there's a specific reason you'd go somewhere now. Like for me, I don't just go. And it's not, I'm not judging anybody for that goes there, but it's so much noise. Or even circles that people in the spiritual world go to. Like I'm sure people feel a little bit alone in this regard, if you understand me. Like I don't go to yoga classes, I don't go to meditation classes. I feel like meditation was like a private matter for myself. Like I could do meditation with other people, but I'd rather do it by myself. And yoga means like a way of life, and I don't need to go to a yoga class. Like I have a way of life, like that I could share with certain people. Like I dance and I sing, and I don't have to do that with other people. I could do that in my home, I could do that in the street. It's quietly. Now I've learned that I got myself in trouble when I was out there, and I would share. Then it's time for me to share certain things. Like I went out there and I got myself into some trouble here and there because people get confused when you're in this place of just pure love and pure just wanting to be like wanting to hug everybody. Okay, but you can't hug everybody because some people are scared when you hug them. Like don't touch me. Ah! Like yo, I know we just like sometimes I just want that hug, and I could give like a real hug to somebody. Like hey, like I got you, but only if you want to be gotten. And it's hard for people to really want to do that with you, and it's like scary for people to like hold on so tight and to know that I can let go. It's not like I'm holding on so tight for dear life. It's holding on tight to like give you that love and warmth. And I'm trying to convey that with words, right? Like words are so much that I know what it feels like to be alone. And it took me so long to love myself, um, to come on here and to share this. I'm sure I'll have to share some more of the pathway that got me to this place, but I'm truly grateful to share this part of my journey with you guys. If you've ever felt alone, please drop a comment and talk about it. That's what I'd love to respond to focus on that part of it. Like, you're not alone. That doesn't mean I'm going to pick up the phone and call you. But to drop the comment, to drop a line and be like, yo, I felt that way. Because I know that I was alone in that. And I appreciate that woman who was saying, like, we got to get on here. And like someone like myself, I know I can help whoever it is, that one person that may say, hey, yeah, that was me. I needed this. Um, so yeah, and like the video, share it, subscribe, and not for it is for me, but it's also for the collective of people that are like ourselves that feel this way and need to get this message. And I know it's going to get out, whether it's this message or another message or through somebody else. But the more we can amplify it together would be very helpful. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Talk to you next time.